American President Donald Trump held the first cabinet meeting since the Iran war broke out, where he spoke at length on various aspects. He said that Iran is begging to make a deal with the U.S. This, remember, even as he reiterated obliterating Iran's Navy, Air Force, missile arsenal, as well as the defense military base.
Smaller version of what we're doing now. We're crushing their missiles and drone stockpiles, destroying their defense industrial base. We've wiped out their Navy completely, their Air Force completely. We've wiped out a large percentage of their missiles. And the missile launchers, without the launchers, the missiles don't do.
On the negotiations front, the U.S. president said that Iran is begging for a deal with the United States. Trump said that Iran is playing smart by not accepting that they are having negotiations to make a deal.
They now have a chance to make a deal, but that's up to them. And they'll tell you, we're not negotiating. We will not negotiate. Of course they're negotiating. They've been obliterated. Who wouldn't negotiate? They are begging to make a deal.
Trump also added that Iranian leaders are finding it hard to communicate with each other as their first and second-tier leadership is gone. In fact, the U.S. president expressed his disappointment in NATO as well. He said that the Iran war was a test for NATO and that they will soon realize the mistake that they have made.
Nobody's a match for the United States, but they're not a match for the United States. It's small potatoes. That's why I'm so disappointed in NATO, because this was a test for NATO. This was a test. You can help us. You don't have to, but if you don't if you don't do that, we're going to remember.
On the Strait of Hormuz, Donald Trump said that the U.S. does not need Hormuz to fulfill its energy needs. But he did say that he will require 100% success rate to open the strait. Even one missile hitting a billion-dollar ship is unacceptable.
The problem with the Straits is this. Let's say we do a great job. We say we got 99%. 1% is unacceptable, because 1% is a missile going into the hull of a ship that cost $1 billion, right? So 1% is we can't. If we do a 99% decimation, that's no good.
All right, let me go across to Susan Teherani. She's joining us from New York to help us get an understanding of what all Donald Trump has said. Susan, the U.S. president has once again reiterated what he has been saying in the last few days, that America has won this war and that Iran's missile arsenal and its nuclear program have been obliterated. As far as his domestic audience is concerned, are they satisfied with what the U.S. president as well as the entire Trump cabinet has said today?
Well, if we look at recent polls, you see that his base is very supportive. Over 70% of his base continues to support him. However, the problem is with those independents that are going to be very detrimental in the midterm elections. If you look at those elections, you can say that they're, months away. But generally, when you look at the polls with independents and the Democrats and the general public, he's not faring very favorably when it comes to this war. Now, could that change after today? It's highly unlikely, because he has been repeating the stuff that he's been saying since the war started. It's been very similar. We haven't seen really any kind of, difference in the messaging when it comes to the White House. So he doesn't have that kind of support that one would have so early in a war. Now, it's clear that the American public ultimately always gets weary of war, but this is the first time we're seeing that he really doesn't have that kind of support, and we're just 1 month into this war.
All right, Susan, thanks very much for joining us with the latest.